It reminds me, and I know on the show we're going to be talking about the movie Jesus Revolution, and in there, I was just kind of wowed when I saw this little snippet where Lonnie is interviewed by Catherine Coleman. Catherine Coleman is known as part of the healing revival movement of the 50s and 60s. So many people, divine healing. But Catherine Coleman's not the healer. Jesus is the healer. Right. Catherine Coleman died here in Tulsa in 76 of cancer. She's not the healer. God's the healer. Right. Now, why everybody doesn't get healed, take that up with, the Burley Gates. But it's interesting. Don's in that same place.
Right, and what's interesting, Don was friends with Lonnie Frisbee.
Yeah.
He knew Lonnie. They were at the Vineyard together.
Okay.
Yeah, Don ministered. He worked with Keith Green, with Lonnie, but also with Bob Dylan. He used to counsel Bob Dylan when Bob Dylan got saved there.
Yeah.
So he was one of the elders there at the Vineyard, the original Vineyard there in Sherman Oaks in California. So yeah, it's always interesting when you see things like that. It makes you question. You wonder. You think Billy Joe Doherty. Just the thousands of people he touched.
Yeah.
At Victory.
Yeah.
And he passed away. In early.
Yeah, lymphoma. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, it's almost like the enemy trying to say, take that. Where's your healing now? It's almost like a taunting type of thing. But like you said, they're not the healer. Jesus is the healer. Yeah. If you think about Elijah and Elisha, Elijah was taken. He never died, right? Mm-hmm. Then along comes Elisha, who they said had a double portion of Elijah's power and healing. But what happened with Elisha? He died from an illness, right? Yep. So, I always go back, and I know people probably think I'm nuts, but I go back to the Chronicles of Narnia. Mm-hmm. I go back to the Chronicles of Narnia, and it's like C.S. Lewis said, he's not a tame lion.
No.
Jesus is not a tame lion. He's a lion of Judah, but he's not a tame lion.
He doesn't conform to our formulas.
He doesn't.
Yeah. By the way, you said that about Elisha, the double portion, and theologians, historians will say, there are twice as many recorded miracles in Elisha's ministry, the last one coming decades after he was dead.
When they threw somebody on
they threw a dead soldier into his tomb. As soon as the body hit the decayed bones of Elijah, he springs back to life and went back to battle. Yeah. He wasn't just partially healed. He was good enough to go back into the battle immediately. So, but that's the thing. But did it heal Elisha? No, it didn't. Why? Take it up with God. Yeah. Yep. But
one day we'll know.
But what did the Hebrew children say to the king? And even if he doesn't deliver us, we're still not going to serve.
Shall I perish?
Yeah.
Yet shall I praise thee.
Yep. Amen.
That's right. All right, everybody. Hey, guess what? For those of you that aren't on Facebook and YouTube, here's a little tune for you.
Believe the lie, so everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is. This is who I am. This is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to go. I'm not the one with two star hands. Giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Fresh Black Coffee. I'm Eddie. This is Dave.
Yeah.
It reminds me, remember Sam and Dave? They were soul group, 60s.
Say that.
They did this song, Soul Man. In fact,
I'm a soul man.
Donald Trump's song. I'm a soul man. That's Sam and Dave. Well, we're Eddie and Dave.
Yeah,
so
there we go.
Anyway, half a soul man.
Okay.
I'm the soul man.
Dave's at least
I'm the soul man. He's not.
No, why would you think that I'm not the one bringing the soul?
No, I'm not just thinking you're not the soul man.
Oh, come on.
Just you
bigot.
Yeah, bigot.
You know, I was interviewed for a pastoral role in Pasadena, an all-black church. They come out of...
Are you serious?
Not kidding you. Came out of National Baptist Convention because the pastor got the Holy Spirit baptism, you know, the
Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
The Holy Ghost.
And we're driving around. I preached the midweek service, and he's showing... And this is mid-'80s. And I'd see these restaurants, soul food. And I said, Pastor... Tell me, what is soul food? I'm from central Minnesota. We don't have soul food restaurants. He says, it is grease, starch, cholesterol, and everything that'll kill you. And they call it soul food.
Everything that'll kill you. That's soul food. Well, there you go. Now, stay away from it.
And this pastor, he at one point weighed over 300 pounds, and he got his life disciplined, and he was down fit and trim. I remember a couple mornings he took me along with him to the gym, and every time we'd go out to eat, he'd go someplace where there's Brussels sprouts and mung beans and salads, and after about 4 days eating nothing but salads, he says, Dave, where do you want to eat? And I said, I need my daily supply of fat, starches, and cholesterol, Pastor. Where's a Burger King? Eventually you just got to have a greasy cheeseburger, you know?
But what you should have said is, where's a Church's?
Yeah, there you go.
Church's fried chicken. You know, I'll tell you what, we've had chicken places pop up around and come and go, but you can't beat Church's. Church's for the quality. Now, I will say, I won't say where, but there have been some pop up that are owned by certain Eastern persuasions, certain races from, well, I'll just say Pakistan and India or whatever, they own it. And they just don't know how to run these places. The sad thing, they're trying to scrimp on the starch, the grease, the starches, and the cholesterol, I guess, or something. It just doesn't taste the same.
Yeah.
You got to have, now, it's something deja vu. It seems like we've had this discussion that if you really want a great soul food place, okay, great soul food, what you got to do, you got to have black people cooking it and Mexicans selling it.
Well, that's what you told me about the good chicken places. Because I went to a bad Popeyes, and I was explaining where it was at. I said, it was a black lady at the counter? And I said, yeah. And you said, oh, no. They belong back in the kitchen. You want Hispanics at the counter because they know people skills.
Well, yeah.
That was what you were getting at.
That's modern day. See, now you used to be, if you went in the front and you had a black lady, she says, hey, sugar, how you doing today?
Yeah.
Everything going well? Is the Lord treating you good? Now, if you had that kind of black lady, then you had some great soul food.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But how can we help you? That kind of.
Yeah.
See, I mean, it's weird. That's what's sad about the state of black America today. You used to have the black women, the matriarch, the lady that would Booker T. Washington had it so down. If you ever get a chance, if you don't get a chance to read Up From Slavery, at least read the Atlanta Exposition speech, okay? The Cotton States Exposition speech from 1885. And he talks about how black Americans raised your children. And he talked about how black Americans literally raised the white children of the South.
Okay.
The mammies.
Yeah.
They used to nurse even. They wet nursed the babies.
Yeah.
they loved those children. They raised them, but they were always so nice. They were so polite. They took care of everything. They took care of the house. Yeah. They did everything, and that was ingrained. It was just natural, and it migrated over into the food, into the restaurants.
Yeah, because they're nurturers.
Right, they were nurturers, and now, oh my goodness, the bad attitude. In fact, I used to be on a black chat list. I may have told you in this. This one guy wrote. It was all black people now. It was all black people, and this one guy wrote this whole thing. He was talking about. He says it was titled, "May I please speak with the white person in charge?"
God, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, because he was talking about he went into the bank, and he was getting nothing but grief by one of those black tellers.
Yeah.
And I've experienced this. I mean, I've experienced this. You go into a place and you're dealing with a black, either bank teller or a black, you go to a tag agency, you can go to downtown, a clerk or something. And just attitude. It's attitude. And we don't need attitude. You're here to serve. You're supposed to serve, and so, and he was telling this whole story about how he goes into the bank and he's got a problem and this black lady didn't have time for it and it was his problem and da-da-da. And, in fact, there's this black comedian, Cat Williams is his name, K-A-T Williams.
Yeah.
Just this, he's the new Eddie Murphy, just raunchy guy. But he has this one little skit he does about a guy who he says everybody's got to have at least one white friend.
Okay.
When you get in trouble.
Oh, I've heard that one. Yeah. Oh, that is so good.
Yeah. And he talks about how he's downtown with these people and he gets he gets arrested at like 4 a.m. He gets arrested for pot at 4 a.m. and he calls in his friends. Hey, Jimmy, I'm down here. The cops I need somebody to come down and bail me out or do something. And he goes, nigga, what you doing calling me here for? What? Don't you know I'm sleeping? I'm sleeping right now. Yeah. Well, you go work it out. Call me again in the morning. Click.
Yeah.
And then Sammy, and finally he calls this white lady he called by mistake earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, yes, hello. How may I help you? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's a wrong number. No, it's okay, young man. How may I help you? Is there a problem? And then the police officers in the back yelling at him or something. Yeah. And what's that noise in the back? Oh, I'm sorry, it's this police officer. Wait a minute, let me speak to him.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the police officer. Officer, you treat this man with respect. And the lady starts getting on the police.
And she sounds white, so the cops listen to her.
Well, it wasn't. No, it just wasn't that. It was just the whole thing is that the white person had more compassion for him than his black friends. Yeah. And so she's talking to the officer, telling the officer to have compassion on him and, take care of him. And says, okay, where are they taking you? Okay, all right. I'll get my husband up and we'll be down there and meet you at about 6 a.m. But I mean, the whole thing that this person that he doesn't even know called by mistake, this person was willing to get out of their way and help him out.
Oh, yeah.
And all of his so-called friends wouldn't help him. But see, it didn't used to be that way.
Right.
That's not the black community, like all communities. I'm not trying to diss on the white community or anything. All communities used to be that way. You took care of yourself. And when the children were bad, the neighbors took care of that too.
Yeah.
The neighbor down here, if they saw you doing something, they would grab you and then take you home and get you disciplined by your parents. Mm-hmm. Now, oh my goodness, if somebody down the street were to complain to your mom about it, why don't you mind your own business? Yep. You don't mess with my child. And this is one of the big problems with America today.
It is.
And so anyway, but that's what
can I say something on that? I went for about 10 years. My family went to Evangelistic Temple Church.
ET. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's now called Spirit Life, but they're just six blocks down the street from Fairmont Terrace, which is one of the most notorious projects. 61st and Peoria. It's known in Tulsa area to really have some problems. It's Section 8 housing.
It's one of the most dangerous, for those that don't live in Tulsa, the area 61st and Peoria area there is one of the most dangerous parts of all of Tulsa.
Yeah, so, but I tell you, our church had a community outreach pastor on staff that he, set up a tutoring center there, outreach ministry, Bible clubs, and I started going down. I take my kids down there to help them, and here we are, the only white family around in this projects here. And the projects there, they were so impressed with what he's doing to elevate the community. They gave him 2 apartments free, gave to the church, where we ran our tutoring center and our Bible clubs and all these activities we did for Fairmont. But there was one family there, actually 3 sisters, the Williams sisters. They're all mamas. And they're like the old school. They disciplined their kids. They had a sense of dignity about themselves. And look, one of them, her man ended up in prison. That's why she's in Fairmont raising kids on government assistance. But those kids were some of the best behaved, most respectful. And to this day, I'll run into the kids. Hey, Mr. Van, and talk to them, and they're just respectful. They have good community skills. And the reason I say that, Eddie, it stands out because it is rare. But so there are still good black families, good black parents, even single parents doing a knockdown, fantastic job. But it's tough.
Well, yeah, but it's fighting against the wind,
Yes.
It's so tough because somehow the black community, and here's my fear, here's the problem. It's bleeding over into the Hispanic community. See, the Hispanic community was the same. The what we call illegal immigrants or migrants, whatever you want to call them. I grew up with them in El Paso, Texas, as well, in my teen years.
Yeah. And
some of my great friends and classmates and everything were all Jaime and Jose and, Naomi. But, I mean, they were just great kids, great families, And, but what you see today is not the same that you see in the barrios from the old, which is the same basically for ghetto or neighborhood. And everything culturally has changed. So now and it's all the welfare state. It's the welfare state that's created. So now, and the really bad thing is the Biden, Obama, Clinton. I think it started with the Clintons. I'll say it truly started. The whole thing started with LBJ and the Great Society, but it wasn't allowed to masticize and fester like it has now, and take such deep root as it is now, and that is the whole welfare mentality. So now you've got people by the millions, not the thousands, by the millions coming across our border, and they're coming for one purpose. They're not coming anymore for jobs. See, the Mexican people that used to come, the Cubans that came, the Africans that might come, the Chinese that tried to sneak into America, and they used to sneak. They used to sneak, by hook and by crook, they would come to America. But the reason they came was for the American dream. If I work hard enough, the Vietnamese boat people that escaped Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, they came here because they had a work ethic.
Yeah.
The people that we're letting walk across the border now, they're coming to receive welfare at the hands of the Democrat Party.
Or they're being encouraged, recruited.
But it doesn't matter how what they're being done. That's why they're coming here.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is going to destroy our nation, people. It's going to destroy the United States of America, because once that mentality hits from the bottom up, see what we've done, we pushed that mentality down, and it's going to come up, and it's going to kill us. And here's God. This is something God showed. I mean, I'm talking 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago. I had this revelation, okay? If I want to keep your children from competing with my children in the future, what's the best way for me to do it? It's not to oppress you and your children. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to convince you that Dave is trying to oppress you, but I'm here to help you. And don't worry about it. I'm going to make it easy on you and your children. They don't have to work hard. I'm going to give you what you need to survive. And they don't have to work. They don't have to study hard, because no matter how hard they study, no matter how hard they strive, Dave's not going to let them make it. But they don't have to. I'm going to give them enough to survive. And so what happens? Your kids and you start being satisfied with survival. You hone in on survival, and that's all you want. That's all you want for your children, okay? Meanwhile, Dave's over here. He's surviving. What do? I send my kids to Harvard. I send my kids to Yale. My kids go to Princeton. I make my kids work hard. I send them to private schools. I give them the best education. I have a good old boy network. I give them the best jobs. My friend gives the best jobs. I give my friends the best jobs. We move up. We close the environment, so we only keep our crew in. And if there's certain people of certain persuasion that we like, we'll let a few in. But overall, we're not letting poor white trash, we're not letting poor black trash, Hispanic trash, Asian trash, whatever. And even more so, if we feel threatened by something like Asians, who are now 90% of the brain trust of our nation, what do? We make new rules that say, no, we can't let that happen. So we raise the bar on the SAT and ACT to the point where you can't make it. So we're going to lower the bar for the other people to come in, because no matter how low we make it, they're not going to make it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. That's why you have ignorant black people attaining these positions in these universities and on these jobs that don't belong there.
Yeah.
I hate to say that. There are I'm not saying there's not black people that are qualified. There are. But there's a bunch of them that aren't. And there are a bunch of white people, Asians in particular, Hispanics and everything, that should be there, and we're keeping them out just to make room for ignorant black folks.
Yeah, let me throw another thing, see what you think of this. Don't you think the race-baiting poverty pimps who demean any kind of service as somehow akin to going back to slavery on the plantation, that might be responsible for the attitude of the lady at the fast food counter who has a bad attitude? She didn't want to serve because that's demeaning.
Right. But see, yeah, and that's what Booker T. Washington, he has a book out that he wrote many years ago called The Black Man in Business, or The Negro in Business. It was the actual original title.
Which means black. Negro means black. Yeah, it's the Spanish word, right, for black?
Yeah, negro, yeah.
Yeah.
But he talks about, he gives these examples. One is the Potato King of Topeka, Kansas.
Oh.
It's a guy who shows up in Topeka, Kansas, and he gets a job on a white man's farm, and he showed up with like 75 cents in his pocket. Starts working for this farmer, and he does a great job. And he asks the farmer for a portion, and the farmer sells him a portion of his land, and he buys another portion. He got so good at farming potatoes that he ended up having a bigger stake than the farmer he worked for. And during the Irish potato famine, he actually saved Ireland. They were buying and sending all of the potatoes to Ireland. He became a millionaire. He was a millionaire, black man in Topeka, Kansas, selling the potatoes to Ireland. There was another guy shows up working in, do you remember diners? Some of you that didn't live on the East Coast, Philadelphia, New York, Massachusetts, they used to have these diners. You may have seen them in the movies.
The dining cars?
No, diners.
Okay.
You'd go in and you go to a wall and it had these little windows, and you put money in the window and you lift it up and there'd be a plate of hot food.
Oh, the automats.
Like roast beef dinner, mashed potatoes, roast beef and vegetables, and you put like 50 cents in and you get a whole plate of food.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and this guy worked back in that kitchen. Well, he decided he's going to start a catering business. And of course, they would wear the tuxes with the white gloves and top, they would really do it right. And so he started a catering business, and he was so good at his catering business, he worked for the Rockefellers and the DuPont, all the high end white folks. Yeah, and he became a millionaire. Yeah, he came with $1.10 in his pocket, and he became a millionaire serving white people. But he was a millionaire. What's the lady, Hattie? Oh, I forget her last name. She was the first Black Academy Award winner for her role in Gone with the Wind. She was an actress.
Way back.
It was 36 is when Gone with the Wind came out. And anyway, so she won the Academy Award. Well, a bunch of jealous black folks, people with nothing better to do, they criticized her later on for a demeaning role playing a servant, a maid. And so Hattie, she knew how to live. She had Rolls Royces, Cadillacs, big mansion. I mean, the lady was filthy rich. Sure. And so they asked her one day what she thought about this. She said, "Well, I'd rather play a maid than be one."
There you go.
Was her famous line.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of it is jealousy, and the people that never had anything want to demean anybody that could make something out of what they think is nothing. Yeah. And someone can make money out of almost anything. It's not what you do, it's what you do with it. Yeah. See, that's what these people can't get in their heads. And it's because they've never done anything except and try to demean other people. Yeah. So anyway,
can I just say something? This is just a little color commentary on the Potato King of Topeka. My great-grandfather came over here, an immigrant. He eventually got a hold of some land, found out the land wasn't nearly as good as what he wanted. It part swamp, But, and then just the whole agriculture thing, the ups and downs, commodity markets. You could have a great bumper year and end up with a net loss because the price falls out because too many people had a good year. But between 1925 and 1935, my great-grandfather made his fortune on one thing, potatoes. It is by far the hardest crop because it grows best in the thickest clay-like soil. That you try digging up clay. I mean, it's hard when it's moist. You try clay when it's hard, right? And it's backbreaking. And my dad as a kid, you picking up, you're bending over because it's not on the ground. It's a foot underground. And you're having to dig all that soil up and try not to damage the potatoes and collect all of those. And I remember as a kid, we gardened because my dad liked being self-sufficient, even living in town. And it is hard work. But when you said he's a potato farmer, that wasn't just a farmer. That is the farmer who works the very hardest to just retrieve that crop that he's waited all year for. It is a tough, tough job. But my great-grandfather, in less than 10 years, made enough to retire for the rest of his life on.
Yeah. So, see, there you go. So now we can understand how this guy became the potato king.
Tater farmer.
But this book,
yeah,
Booker T. Washington's book is just full of stories like this. He understood, Booker T. had all these sayings, and how, he was born a slave in a cabin. He never knew his father. His mom was a slave. Mm-hmm. He was actually a slave, and yet he became just this brilliant guy. Founded Tuskegee University. Yeah. And in 1905, Tuskegee University created more millionaires from their graduates than Harvard, Princeton, and Yale combined.
Yeah.
So the guy knew what he was speaking of. Yet, this is what ticks me off too, yet black Americans refuse to speak his name. They refuse. They're changing the names of schools, and they like to champion W.E.B. Du Bois instead of Booker T. Washington, because W.E.B. Du Bois was this radical. He wasn't taking any crap.
Yep.
But W.E.B. Du Bois never did anything for anyone. Mm-hmm. I mean, and in the end, towards his death later on, he said Booker T. was right.
Yep.
So he finally had to acknowledge. He became a communist, socialist, and but in the end acknowledged Booker T. was right. So anyway, hey, listen, we'll move on to.
I've got something that's time sensitive.
Right, but we're going to move on from everything we've been talking about. So let's deal with
live right now. Donald Trump has come to Tulsa. Those of you watching us live right now, the Republican Party, Tulsa County, has got a sign waving, greeting Trump as his entourage comes into downtown to the BOK Center. Trump is invited guest of Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, a friend of this show, sat in this chair. Mark Wayne was a college wrestler, and the college NCAA wrestling championships are here in town. The reason I say particularly to show up, Trump announced overnight that he expects to be arrested on Tuesday.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. But just go ahead and do your announcement, and we'll talk about that.
But the reason we need to show up now, we have a unique opportunity, Tulsa, is to show the world the people love and stand by him, especially in the face of the indictment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and for Tulsa, this is really something that he's coming here to Tulsa again, because if you'll remember the last time he was here, it was on Juneteenth. Do you remember? It became a big thing that the Democrats tried to use against him. It's like they'll try to use anything against this man. It's like I always say about the Democrats: no good deed goes unpunished.
Hey, it became a national holiday because of Trump.
Yeah, you see? Yeah, no, that's true. I mean,
he did more to make it a national holiday than anyone.
Yeah, so who knows what they'll try to do out of this thing this time, but it's just
they'll ban wrestling.
They'll ban. Yeah. Man, who knows? But yeah, it's true. They will do anything to get this guy. It's unbelievable how much they loathe and hate this man. Never listen. People are going to, and I hope they do. I hope people do attack me for making this statement.
Okay,
but I would be willing to say, no man in history has been hated as much for as little as Donald Trump since Jesus Christ.
Not by the masses, but by the elite, the deep state, the media. The same bunch that came after Andrew Jackson. He was an outsider. The people loved him, But the establishment and government hated him.
They hate this guy.
Yeah.
They literally. What's the difference between Trump and Andrew Jackson? There's a whole lot more Americans and a whole lot more population than there was back in that day. But yeah, it's a similar deal. But it's a sickness. It's like unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
The loathing.
Derangement syndrome. That's
right.
what it's called.
TDS.
There actually is a name for this illness.
Trump derangement syndrome. So, but anyway, in keeping with that, he's a guest of Mark Wayne Mullen. It was supposed to be kind of kept under wraps, but you know how that goes. You can't keep stuff like that. To their credit, Tulsa police is protecting him and bringing him in at no cost. Mm-hmm. There no charge to Trump, which, hey, hats off to TPD. Mm-hmm. And I do hope a lot of people will be out and greet him. And I'm sorry that in a way that we're recording this now, or I'd be down there too. But
it's in 2 hours.
Well, in 2 hours, so maybe we won't go 2 hours.
Yeah.
But if you can get down there, do get down there. So, by the way, in a related topic, the president and many around him believe that he will be indicted and arrested on Tuesday. He has said he will be indicted and arrested on Tuesday for things related to Stormy Daniels. Now, most of us thought that this whole deal was finished, that it was over, that her lawyer is in jail.
Yeah, it's been so discredited.
Her lawyer's in jail. But these people won't quit. They won't quit. Now, here's the deal. They're saying he paid her off, and it was hush money to keep her from revealing that he had sex with her, and that this is now, and they're trying to state that he used campaign money to pay her off. Although there's no proof he had. No evidence at all that he used campaign money. Look, a guy was worth $12 billion, and I can't remember, was it $250,000 or some? I don't even know what he was supposed to have paid the lady. Okay, I don't know. Okay, but now she signed a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are very common. Politicians will do it because if it's too messy, I'm not guilty of anything, nothing morally, but it's too messy. I'd rather it not come up.
And not just politicians.
Yeah.
Actors.
Oh, yeah.
Entertainers. Mm-hmm. I mean, and if they do this, mm-hmm. Hey, Katie barred the door.
Yeah.
I mean people everywhere should be sweating in their boots.
Even record labels have been known to do that.
Sure, everybody.
There's nothing wrong. But it just, when they're doing a PR, big promotion, everything, they don't need this kind of distraction.
Bad publicity.
Yeah, there's nothing to it, but it would cost us more to overcome in our publicity machine.
Well, yeah.
That's why they do it.
Well, the difference here, look, nobody doubts that he slept with Stormy Daniels, okay? Let's just put that behind us, okay? He just didn't want it coming out at this particular time, mm-hmm. Okay? All right. He didn't want her talking because he didn't want this all over, it was all over anyway, but it was wasted money, okay? Basically, it was wasted money. He should have just said, yeah, go ahead and tell him, go ahead and tell him. But they want to make a mountain out of a molehill. And now this district attorney who won't arrest felons in New York City for real crimes that they're doing, murder, rape, you name it, in New York City, he's going to go after Trump about this thing and try to make a career out of this deal. Like I said, it's just unbelievable what they're doing.
You look at the multiple felonies that are on the Hunter Biden laptop. That is smoking gun. You got video of all of these things. And there hasn't been one indictment of Hunter Biden. And they held that laptop for almost 2 years before we found out.
Dave, I actually think that this is part of the reason they're doing this also, to try to get the coverage off of Hunter and Joe.
Could be.
I really do think that that's it. But But yeah, so we'll see how all this happens. So Trump is now here's another strange little twist to it. Elon Musk has come out now.
Oh.
Yeah. And he's predicting, he said that if there's an indictment and or an arrest, it will ensure a Donald Trump reelection in 2024.
Well, there you go. And
so that's pretty interesting.
Now, I've got the legal part of it. Alan Dershowitz, the famous Harvard attorney, talked about it. Dershowitz said, I've never voted for Trump. I've voted against him twice now.
Yeah.
But I defended him.
And we'll probably vote against him again.
He says, no, I defended him in both of his impeachment trials. And he said, I hope that this comes to nothing, which it should be, so he can run again, so I can vote against Trump, but the third time. Okay? But Dershowitz said, this idiot local prosecutor, federal prosecutor for New York City, basically, is using an amalgamation of New York state law, which prohibits certain things and requires certain reporting, and federal law, and trying to make one law out of two laws in two different jurisdictions, which you cannot hold a federal courtroom trial on state charges or vice versa. But that's what they're trying to do. And he said, there's nothing wrong with paying somebody a stipend or whatever just to keep a story from going public. Just don't add to it.
Hush money.
Just, yeah, right. Because again, if you're wanting to keep a message simple, because it's called promotions, it's PR. Mm-hmm. It's part of launching a brand, launching a talent, an artist, a politician. Happens all the time. All the time. Because, again, even if you can prove and vindicate this person that you're trying to help, it'll cost you more to vindicate them than just to keep the story hushed up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, that's why I'm saying, I mean, honestly, if this goes forward and if they were to actually see this through, can you imagine what precedent it sets for other hush money or non-disclosure agreements that have been set? I mean, I honestly don't understand how the legal system is allowing this because of the fact that there's so many of these things out there right now that are in jeopardy. Because if they're able to overturn this one, it would just negate everything.
Yeah.
The other thing I don't understand, Dave, how is it that in all of these cases, take the January 6th guys, all the people that are in jail there, all of the people that are being tried in New York, they're always bringing
New York? I think it's D.C. January 6th.
Trump.
Oh yeah, Trump's in New York. Yeah.
All these cases are being tried in these jurisdictions where you have kangaroo courts, basically. And I apologize to kangaroos everywhere.
Yeah.
But how come we can't get a change of venue? Because it's obviously unfair to these people.
It is.
How can we not get, for example, the January 6th, how can we not get these guys tried somewhere else where people are ready to look at the evidence more fairly? Because this is ridiculous what's happening.
Okay. I've got an answer for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rush Limbaugh told it. Rush was...
Tell our audience.
Yeah. Rush Limbaugh actually happened to be golfing with Trump a couple months after he got elected president. And there was something come up, and Trump knew he was going to get vindicated, and he said, this, once this happens, he says, then I think I'm going to be able to unite the American people, and I'll get the positive media support. Because remember, Trump always had positive media help, right? And Rush said, I think they were on like the third green, and he said, Mr. President, you have to understand, the media will never stop hating you. They will always, always be digging up trash on you. They'll always, And I mean, Rush just unloaded, and Trump was just kind of, I was like, you mean there is no Santa Claus? Almost kind of looked. And Rush said he looked at his aides, and he didn't name which ones, but they kind of were smiling like, thank you, finally somebody. Rush is saying, well, Trump wouldn't take it when we told him that. I think Steve Bannon might have been one of the people standing around there. But this is the thing. You know, they hate him. And so what happened shortly after Trump got that message, Trump moved his residency to Florida, out of New York. That way, the reason this is happening in New York is at the time the arrangements were so-called made, Trump was living in New York and his business office.
No, I understand that, but I mean,
so
are they not able to get a change of venue? Are they, or let's say the January 6th people? What's wrong with, I mean, where are the appeals? How are they not appealing all of these cases?
The standard is that you try a case where the crime is purported to be committed.
Right. That is true.
And to change the venue takes quite an appeal process, and you have to show it's impossible to get a fair trial, either through the jury pool, pretrial publicity. I mean, just all kinds of things like that. Remember, Tim McVeigh blew up the Murrah building. They wanted to have the trial right there in the city he blew up. But they were able to prevail, and the federal court said, no, we're moving it to Denver. So that's why the trial was there. It was so obvious. You know, you blew up our city. Now you want us to sit here with an open mind?
Right.
You know, so, and you're right, this should happen, but it doesn't.
Right. Okay. And where's the appeals process?
That's a good question.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. You got people sitting in jail. I mean, how can you have people sitting in jail for a year and a half with not even a trial? You got them, and then once they have a trial, they're convicting them, and there's no appeal. I see nothing happening. It's just poor lawyers. They don't have the money to get lawyers for appeals. I mean,
it's a million little, mostly misdemeanor cases. Most of these people are now bankrupt because they've been sitting in jail. They're bankrupt. Their family has nothing. They're destitute, losing houses, everything. And it costs a lot of money to make these cases and to document and have all your evidence. And, you know, it's a lot of briefcase hours, you know, billable attorney fees. And, you know, who's going to give that? It's going to be the same judicial district that is so biased against you. You know, this is the deep state saying, no, we want you right here where we can control.
But see, that's not right.
I know. This is a problem with our democracy, because the only way anything's going to be set right is to get a mega conservative back in the White House where you can just wipe it all out through pardons.
Yeah.
That's the only way.
I know. And somehow we have got to change these judges in D.C. and because in these areas, because if you cannot get a fair trial, then there is no justice.
Yeah, you cannot fire a judge, a federal judge. It's a lifetime appointment.
Right.
And impeachment would be the only way, which means you need 65 senators. And good luck in this political environment.
But you can replace them if they retire. And
right.
So you got to get the funnel.
Yeah. Now,
underneath.
One of the things Trump and Mitch McConnell worked together on fantastically was filling these judgeships, because there's always a backlog. And McConnell said, I can work with that on your agenda. And there was very little Trump and McConnell worked together on, but that one thing they did.
Yeah, but now, you know, I don't even know if I really trust McConnell.
Right.
Those judges,
right.
Whether how truly conservative they are.
Remember, McConnell was majority leader 2 years before Trump came to office. And Obama's still president, and we lost Anthony Scalia. And McConnell said, no, we're going to wait till the next election,
right.
let the people speak, and then whichever Senate is here in Washington, then they will pick a Supreme Court justice. But then what happened? Exact same thing 4 years later. Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies. And the same McConnell says, by God, we need a ninth justice. Let's get someone now.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So, is McConnell being consistent? No. This is politics.
Oh, let me move on to something else real quick. Biden, they have disclosed, the Congress has been working, the legislature, let's put it this way, the House. Okay, the House has been digging. They are doing their work. They are investigating and digging into the Hunter Biden mess. Okay, and they have discovered $1 million in payments from a Hunter to the family from a Hunter Biden associates.
Yeah, Chinese associates.
Right.
Yeah.
Chinese. And Biden, they asked him in public, when he walks to the helicopter, and he denied it. Oh no, but then no, you did. That did happen. And so anyway, he denied that his family received more than $1 million in payments from accounts related to Hunter Biden's business associate. No, this is actually an American associate named Rob Walker, and their Chinese business ventures in 2017. Even through financial records, even though financial records indicate otherwise. So they found the financial records showing that they received this $1 million. On Thursday, GOP lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee revealed that they had obtained bank documents showing that Hunter Biden, the president's brother Jim, Haley Biden, the widow of his son Beau, received payments from Hunter's business associate Rob Walker and their joint venture with Chinese energy firm CEFC. A spokesman for Hunter confirmed the payments Thursday, but emphasized that the recipient's accounts belonged to Hunter, his uncle Haley, and no one else. Yeah, Joe, the big guy, wasn't involved.
Wait a minute. This is the same Hunter Biden that's paying rent to his dad on their Delaware mansion of was it?
I think it's $50,000.
Yeah, $50,000 a month. Okay, you tell me what residence is worth $50,000,
especially your son to your dad.
You're right.
Yeah,
that's how you launder these.
That's how you launder money. Yeah,
yeah, that's how you do it. It's inflated prices for things that are legit at a far lower price.
Who charges their son $50,000 a month?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the reason why organized crime in New York and New Jersey invested heavily in car wash deals where you put coins in.
At the car wash.
Because you could put $10,000 worth of quarters in, and you just want clean cars. That's all you want, right? Is that payoff? See, if it's a cash transaction, then there's no paper trail in that. Now, this, of course, does have a paper trail. And this is also why there's such a resistance of people about the IRS cracking down, the banking. Oh, my God, what's going on with banking? That's another issue we need to talk about. But because the community banks may be on their way out, according to some people, because of all these emergency decisions being made, that's going to squeeze out the small community bank. When you've just got a very few people who are heavily handed and, leftist to begin with, such as Silicon Valley Bank, very leftist bank. So we're going to see this kind of selective prosecution where if a conservative does it, they're going to prison. If you're Hunter,
and they're not getting bailed out.
Yeah. But Hunter's still a free man. By the way, Hunter, you got a daughter in Arkansas. You need to go visit her. And Joe, that's your granddaughter in Arkansas. Tell me, are you a family values man?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Just one more
No,
day.
you're right. You're right.
Okay. So, yeah, do you want to talk about the banking thing? Because it looks like we've got now half a dozen banks that are either declared insolvent or behind the scenes. They're being ready.
Yeah, at first they thought it was the one, and then it was another one, but it's like a domino effect coming down, snowball, and we can only hope that it stops. See, I here's the problem that the Biden administration jumped in because Silicon Valley Bank is so deeply entrenched in Democrat donor money.
Yeah.
That they jumped right out and want to save that bank.
Yeah.
And give them all, to where, see, your SDIC and your SLIC, Savings and Loan Insurance Corporation, and the Savings Deposit Insurance Corporation, they secure your money. So if you put money in the bank, up to $250,000. So if you have $20,000 in savings, if you have, or checking, if you have $50,000, $100,000, $150,000, up to $250,000, that money the government will pay you back because it's insured federally. Okay, FDIC,
Yeah.
Federal Deposit Insurance Company. Okay, so you got the FDIC and the SLIC.
No, the FSLIC has been taken over by the FDIC back in the late 80s. So when all the S&Ls went crashed.
So both are, it's FDIC.
It's all FDIC
Okay,
now.
all right. So you got FDIC.
The insurance company went insolvent, the FSLIC, and they got taken over by the FDIC.
Okay, so FDIC has both. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, now, if you've got 500,000, 250, that's gone. $1 million, everything above 250 is gone. However, Silicon Valley, Biden has come out and his cronies have, because it's this Silicon Valley money, all of the green people, because all the money was in solar power, solar energy, all of these, which people told them, you're investing in nothing. It's airware.
Solyndra.
Yeah, so it's Solyndra again. Yeah. And so that money is gone. But instead of insuring them up to 250, they told them, don't worry about it. We're insuring you at 100%.
Yeah.
So if you got people that have $10 million, $100 million, they have told them, the federal government is now going to pay them their full $100 million.
Well, yeah, in that term, federal government, the government set up this corporation, the FDIC, that is doing it. And they're kind of one of these pseudo trusts, kind of like the post office. They're a company, but yet they're the government. And because they are not purely government, now they've got this board, and this board decides, yeah, let's go ahead and pay those claims. What insurance company would do that?
None.
Exactly.
None. But here's the problem. If I am one of the other banks, I'm suing.
Well, I would. Yes.
You have to.
Yes.
You cannot allow them to pay Silicon Valley 100%, and you're going to pay me $250.
Right. Because there's only one player in this game of insuring deposits. It's the FDIC. If you had multiple, and banks can choose which, well, first of all, it shouldn't even be mandated. But, so yeah, this is the problem.
Yeah.
And I would.
See, I think what I think happened here, I think they thought it's only this bank and maybe one other little one, and it'll go away. But as it grows, you're not going to be able to get away with it because there's too many depositors out there who are going to say, wait a minute, you can't do this. I'm not letting Jack over here in California who's speculating on solar power or hydropower or whatever power you want to be talking about. And I'm over here with my life savings, my mother's farm over here, and you're going to just tell me, sorry, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
And they're speculating over here, and you're going to make them whole, and I'm out of luck. You can't do that. And I'm taking you to court.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So here's two things. And Barney Frank all of a sudden become a central character.
Well, yeah, because he's one of the members of the board out there.
Of Signature Bank, the Boston branch, right? Because he's from Massachusetts. Right, but he's also the key author of what's called the Graham-Rudman restrictions on banking that came out of 2008 to prevent that kind of big bank failure like we had in 2008. And while Biden is blaming Trump for rolling back the protections, in other words, regulations, they're the same thing. Trump could not roll back a federal law.
Right.
Nothing in the Dodd-Frank got rolled back. No. And so Barney Frank said, look, yes, I was on the board of Signature, and yes, they failed, and he didn't say there was anything illegal or violating laws that caused this kind of a danger. And he said none of the minor little regulations that Trump rolled back had anything to do with it.
Exactly. He pulled, he basically.
So Barney Frank just undermined the propaganda that Biden right away was doing.
Well, let me just throw this in. Anything that goes wrong, they try to tie it to Trump. They immediately try to make it look like it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. And it's not his fault. He doesn't have anything to do with it. And yet everything they try to make it look like it's him.
Right.
And he has nothing to do with it. And what's really funny is that their own people then always come back and make them look stupid because they point out, no, Trump doesn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, and the real problem here, and you always see this whenever you have this big inflation wave that comes in and comes to stay. Because you're carrying all of these long-term debt, these notes, these mortgages, and everything, and you might be charging your consumers 3%, maybe 4%, but now you can't even borrow money from the feds at prime rate for as low as you're servicing. Mm-hmm. So you're just not collecting on regular income the kind of money that is, keeps you sustained, keeps your margins. Banking is all about margins. You pay the savings loan guys maybe 2%, but then you take their money and then you loan it out 6%, and that margin between 2 and 6, that's your operating capital.
Yeah, and it's the bond. What happened because it was the bond market.
Yes,
and when they were invested in the bonds at 2%. But then the bond market jumped up to 4.5 to 5.
Yeah.
And so they were having to pay the 5, but they were getting 2, and they got caught in that.
Yeah, and they're playing, this is kind of hedge fund stuff. So this is a real problem here. And as a result, what's gone on this week globally, because inflation's a global phenomenon now, banks all over the world, their stockholder share prices, the value of their banks is dropping huge. First Republic is one of them that's really taken a hit. So now all of a sudden they can't even sell their stock and get out, the owners of stocks, and get out now. Now they're at a loss. So this is a big problem.
Yeah, and who's really coming in again, Jim Cramer.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because I think it was just 2 weeks ago, he was in there telling everybody, oh, don't worry about SVB, Silicon Valley Bank. He was saying, don't worry about it. These guys are fine. It's just, it'll blow over.
Yeah, he said they're a good investment 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
now, Trish Regan, she was very diplomatic about it. She says, listen, if you're investing your money based on advice on cable TV, you got problems. Don't take my advice. Don't take Kramer's. Don't take anybody. Get involved. You know, that's one of the things about Rupert Murdoch. He did an interview with Ted Koppel one time. He says, I only recommend to Berkshire Hathaway, that's his investing company, in businesses that I understand. They were sitting in a Dairy Queen, those two doing the interview. He said, yeah, Berkshire invested in Dairy Queen because I understand this business. Be sure you understand the business, understand all the dynamics, all the variables, all the market variables. You know, because, Eddie, we're going into a time where it makes sense to keep some cash under your mattress, lest you become a Silicon Valley Bank customer and you need money this weekend and you can't.
Right. You said Rupert Murdoch. He's Fox.
I'm sorry, no, Rupert. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett. Excuse me. Thank you for that. Yeah, but Warren Buffett's always said that. He says, you know, he owns much of Burlington Northern Railroad. He says, I understand railroads. Yeah. You know, he doesn't invest in industries he doesn't understand.
No, that's right. That's right. No, it's an interesting thing. The whole now I wake up every morning to Fox Business. Fox Business, I found, is the most conservative of the stations, even more so, I find, than Newsmax. Maria Bartiromo, we might have discussed this in Varney, but and then, of course, in the evening ones. Now, Varney he's not a real Trump fan, I
Stuart
find. Stuart Varney. But the pundits he has on there's a guy named Eddie Gabor. And then this lady, I cannot think of her name right now. More and more people are starting to bring her on. They are two I've been watching for probably a year now. And, man, they've nailed it. I mean, these people, I mean, I count on them now. And I because you'll have different ones come on with it. Oh, yeah, this, and this. But Eddie Gabor, and I wish I could remember. Not Liz Peek. I cannot think of this lady's name. Anyway, there's a few of them that are really right on, but these two in particular really understand these markets. And if you get a chance, if you can get up that early in the morning, Maria comes on at 4 in the morning, and she goes until 8, and then Stuart, of course, comes on at 8. But I don't trust me, I don't get up at 4. I usually start at 7. I usually watch from 7 to probably 9, then I go to work. So I catch an hour of each one of them. But no, I mean, they're so good, these guests, and they deal with the political. See, if you get your politics in a vacuum, just in a vacuum, a lot of times you don't see the whole picture. But if you see it in the real world, how it affects economics, society in the real world. And that's what happens when you see it on Fox Business, because they show how it affects everything. You know, you see the finances, you see what it does in industry, in you name it, the prices of food and this and that, and what China's doing by buying this company, buying agriculture over here, how that is affecting this over here and here, and why we have to stop Russia, China, Ukraine. There are no fans of Ukraine, trust me, either. But they're very fair, and also they are no fans of Joe Biden. Let me put it that way. They really have an issue with Joe Biden and the Biden administration. Let's put it that way. But if you get a chance, do watch Fox Business. On Dish, it's 206. Fox is 205. It's 206. I don't know what it is on DirecTV or the others, but you really need to watch Fox Business. It's really, really good.
I got a question on this.
Yes, sir.
Before we move on. If you've got stocks in Wall Street, you buy stocks. One of the things my dad always told me, always diversify your investments. Don't go all in one industry, or especially not one company. But diversify. That way, if something crashes, you didn't lose everything. Here's my question. in the last 30 years or so, we've come up with this new thing called, I think it's a mutual fund, where you invest in a trading company. You have stock in that trading company, and they invest in all these different ones. I think there's a danger in that, because what if that trading, that mutual fund, that company goes under? They own all of those stocks that you were investing in. It's in their name. You just have stock in the trading fund.
No, because they're fiduciaries. See, so for example, take Schwab or TD Waterhouse, and all that. So they'll have different funds under that company. So being a fiduciary, but in other words, what that means, they don't actually own them. Okay, they're handling those for you, and they're charging you a fee every time you invest.
No, I understand that.
So if they go under, the fund is still intact.
No, I understand the A.G. Edwards, the Schwabs, those stock brokers.
Right.
I'm talking about if you personally invest in Vanguard. That's the name of one of them, right? Okay. Vanguard. Some capital firm, if they go down, just like Silicon Valley goes down.
I see what you're saying. Oh, okay.
They were invested in stocks.
In a Vanguard 2025.
Yeah, Vanguard owns a whole bunch of stocks.
I see what you're saying.
But they are all the property of Vanguard.
Okay, I see what you. Well, yeah, but see, usually, so for example, it just depends on which one it is, because a Vanguard will have shares in all of these different in all of these different things. But again, I don't think they actually own those. I think it's just in their name.
That's what I'm saying here. Because it's in their name, good luck getting. Whereas if you just go to A.G. Edwards or Schwab and say, buy me such and such of AT&T, that AT&T stock is in your name.
Right.
Unlike Vanguard.
Right. But again, what I'm saying is it's a Vanguard fund, but I don't think Vanguard in other words, I don't think if Vanguard goes under, it takes that fund under. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying?
That's
now,
the thing.
We'll have to we can look into that. That'll be something for us to look in for and come back to you with. But I don't think that Schwab, because Schwab was one that was hit. You know, they were involved in this thing with SVB and all the others last week. Yeah. But I don't think, like, so for example, I'll just, in full disclosure, I have mine through Schwab. So, you know. Yeah. But I don't think, you know, it's not going to, you know, if Schwab was involved, but it didn't affect my funds.
If you bought stock directly or through Schwab, it still goes to your name. Right.
But if you have a Schwab fund of
there were a lot of people my dad knew and my grandparents knew that invested in this little company in Minnesota called Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. And a lot of them forgot about it. It wasn't until they're dead. Yeah.
3M.
They found out, what do you know? I'll own all this stock in 3M. And they thought it had gone under in the Great Depression. See? So, because it's in your name, it's still a valid stock.
But it didn't go under.
Right.
In fact, it paid off really well for him.
Oh, yeah, if you wait it out.
Right.
Yeah, that's the other thing my grandpa always told me. He says, you don't lose in a crash until you sell.
Right.
Yeah. You may forecast what the worth is, but as long as you don't sell, you know, in fact, there's a lot of people who only invest great deals of money right in the wake of a crash, because that's where all the deals are.
Oh man, you know, one of those Williams companies, they were down at 70 some cents back at the turn of the century. Okay. In the early 2000s.
That's when their communications went under, right?
Yeah, shortly after that, right. Yeah, it was like 70 some cents, and then boy, they turned that around. It went back up to I think $30 some. Exactly. $30-$40, and you could. I mean, can you imagine? You bought about I mean, if you'd bought $1,000 worth at
Yeah.
77 cents a share, and then sold it at its peak.
Yeah. Another thing came up in this. I wanted to run it by you. Evidently, a lot of these banks were keeping quiet about it, but Silicon Valley Bank was investing in cryptocurrency. They wanted to get in on it. And now that it's really gone flat, plateaued and crashed in many instances.
But it's strangely, it's been holding steady, just right at the $20,000.
Yeah. But I
mark.
don't think a lot of these banks were telling their people that they're taking their money on deposit and investing in crypto.
Well, see, what the problem with all of these things right now, in certain ones, is it's all the same people. They party together. They're spending they're all into the ESG. They're all into renewables.
Yeah, they're very woke.
They're all woke, exactly. And they party together. They spend their money together. They spend more money on image than they do on actual knowledge.
Yeah.
And so once the chips start falling dominoes, it just affects all
Wouldn't
of
you
them.
agree the greatest contributor to this problem is inflation?
No, I think the greatest contributor to this problem is hubris.
Cronyism too.
Well, yeah, but just
that.
no, they're just cocky.
Yeah.
They're just cocky, and they think they know it all, and we know more than you old fogies.
Yeah.
It's this thing these young people. Well, we know what you.
Yeah.
You're
Shut up,
old.
boomer.
You're done. Yeah.
You're a boomer.
Yeah, you're done for.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing anymore. We're going to do this now, and like you said, Warren Buffett still rules. Not so fast.
Yeah.
Not so fast.
No, that's true. I was talking to my son this morning. He, works with a pretty big community. Well, he works for Forbes. He's pretty high up. And he started telling me about just the labor market and the mindset of Generation Z. He says, Dad, it's not like the boomers. It's not even like the way I was raised. And I'm still in my mid-30s.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. My sons, too. I mean, and daughter, they're workers. I mean, they want to work, but the people around them, they just can't figure it out. It just...
Yeah. And he said, retention of employees is taking a big hit.
Everybody owes them something.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. Everybody owes them something for nothing.
Yeah. But, the yuppies were that. Remember, it was kind of, I was considered part of that generation, young urban professionals that in the Reagan economy of the 80s were just booming. Stock market was going nuts. And a manager at a New York investment house right there on Wall Street was yelling at one of his yuppie new college grads working because he found out that he just, new employee, he hadn't been with me 2 months, and he just told me he's going to work for my competitor across the street. And this old man is just furious because, what can I do? And he finally says, where's your sense of loyalty? And this yuppie said, sir, you want loyalty? Get a dog. Because there's no sense of company loyalty.
Yeah.
The things we were taught by our parents.
Yeah.
So
anyway, don't buy any Silicon Valley Bank stock.
yeah, they have filed Chapter 11, I think. They've
Well,
gone
here's
away.
the other thing. See, here's the other thing that gets me. The higher ups, the CEO and the people running it, sold their stock.
Yes.
See, and
That's insider trading.
right.
In my book.
Somebody they need to be arrested and they need to go to jail or don't go to jail. Just take it all away from them. Just take it all away. Just sue them, take all that money away from them. Plus, take everything they sold and just take it away from them.
If it's
Make an example out of them. Teach others not to do what they did.
Yeah, you definitely take it away, all of it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, is there anything
All
criminal?
those shares that they sold on that day, they need to negate that, take it back, and then put it back in the company, and then whatever it ends up in the sale.
But if you own a big newspaper in the state of Oklahoma and you decide to invest in an airlines and you print every day about this great new deal and it's headlines of it and you get the city to invest in it and to co-sign for it and then you see it's going down, this is all hypothetical.
Yeah, right.
And then you sell all your stock and you're fine and you got to move out of town, right? And sell your newspaper off.
Where? Like Florida?
Yeah. You know, this happens all the time.
I know it happened once.
Yes. I don't think I've said enough to get sued.
I hope not.
But if you did something like that, if that were to happen.
If that had perchance happened to have happened.
Yeah. So, you know, this is the kind of thing, you see it happen all the time.
Yeah. That's what going back to the Trump deal with the non-disclosure is a similar type thing. But see, that's what's bad. You get certain people that can get away with it, and then you get the next person and they don't. And in this case, even if you let Silicon Valley get away with it, but you don't let the next bank, the next 5, the next 10 get away with it.
Yeah, and that's why the media has become a prostitute, has become sold. And sometimes it's all that, partying and the schmoozing and all that. And sometimes it's, hey, we'd like to run a bunch of pharmaceutical ads to sponsor all your shows. And we'll pay a pretty good amount. Now, are you going to say anything bad about pharmaceuticals? You got a problem with the COVID vaccines? No, because you're making it's just like the terrible gambling epidemic and the addiction to gambling in Oklahoma that you never see in the newspapers. But boy, you see all these casino ads. Come on over. They're not going to report on it because that's who's feeding them.
Yeah. Hey, listen, next Saturday.
Yeah.
State convention.
County. Tulsa County.
I'm sorry, county. Yes, I'm sorry, county convention. That's right. I'm jumping ahead.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us what's going on? Who may come and some of the things involved? Let us know.
If you went to your precinct caucus meetings, I'm old school. I called them the caucus meetings back in late January. You may have been assigned by your little neighborhood to be a delegate to the convention. I was, my wife was. And this is how the Republican Party, Democrat Party claims to work as being a bottom-up. Because they select their delegates. The delegates now are going to be asked to vote for a county chairman for the next 2 years. The person who's been the chairman for the last 2 years wants to seek another term and is running. And we had a candidate in here about a month ago, Ron Cosby. He's also running for that. That convention is being held at a church on 31st Street between Sheridan Memorial. And I don't have the name of that. Paula Price is the pastor of that church. Paula has actually been an officer, and now she's planning to run at the state convention, which is another month or so down the line. She's running for state vice chair.
Now that would be something.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because
a black Pentecostal pastor being the state Republican chairman.
Yeah, no, I have to say, everything I've seen Paula do and say to support the conservative movement has been fantastic.
Yeah, no, she's
a great
solid.
communicator. She's kind of fun. I was state committee man, central committee member for Tulsa County. I end my term, and she takes the next term right behind me. And then I run for state vice chair, and now she's doing it. I didn't win, though.
Can you imagine the Democrats trying to attack her? I mean, that would be funny. Really, that would. I mean, seriously, that would just make them look like fools.
No, here's the thing: she's going to be attacking them.
Well, I know, but I mean, what can they come at her with?
No,
you know, the typical Republicans are racist, a bunch of white crackers or whatever. I mean,
I understand that. I'm telling you, They have more things to be concerned about than how they're going to attack her. It's how they're going to survive.
How they're going to defend against her. Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true because she and not only her, she's got a whole army of people.
About 30% of our county convention 2 years ago was a darker pigment than me. Mm-hmm. Okay, and when we went to state, I'm hanging out with them. And they're calling out the Democrats for flat out racism. I sat with a bunch of black ladies at one table, and I said, how did you respond when Biden said, if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black? And this young black woman says, that is the most racist thing I think is possible to say. Mm-hmm. It's so stereotypical and and I loved it because at the state convention, Tulsa showed we were leading. If you're concerned about the image, the color, the look, the check mark, we went with probably 25 to 30% of our delegation being from the African community in Tulsa. I think it's a great thing because it's not just a token. It's a brigade.
No, I know. I've met her. I know some of her people. I mean, they're legit. I mean, but I'm just saying it would just be so funny. It would turn everything upside down.
Yeah.
Now, if she can get some people in Oklahoma City on board too, mm-hmm. I mean, turn that around for that county over there, that would.
Yeah, they've had their convention. I talked to one of the delegates. It was last week. Wasn't any new faces. To be honest with you, there's a big downturn in the turnout participation. Part of it is they're charging exorbitant fees, which the rules don't allow them to charge any fees. Okay? It doesn't.
Yeah,
I mean, my first several I went to, there was no charging.
No, I know.
We complained because they were charging $5.
Let me just say this in general. The Oklahoma GOP, it's in shambles.
It's got problems.
And it's like the leadership, but from the state. I mean, it's not. I'm not picking on county.
Oh, I'll throw them all in.
Right, but I think above all, it's from the state. It's from the state leadership that is not. See, I mean, when Gary Jones was leading, I didn't really mesh with his personality very much. Yeah. I just didn't really care for his personality. But I have to say, he was a great leader. He was a good leader for the state. He was hands-on. He got involved and so forth. And he would be involved with these people and tell them what to do and how to do it and so forth. And I think it trickled down. But since he's been gone, I've seen it just get looser and looser and looser.
I got to say, Pinnell, for my mind, is the best at growing, delegating, inclusiveness, and getting everybody.
Yeah.
And we have not, since Pinnell, we have not had a good state party chair.
No, I agree. Yeah. Who followed him?
After Pinnell came David Weston.
Right.
Which, when he went up for re-election, he came in third in a field of three.
Yeah.
That's how badly he was rejected.
Well, and I think he was horrible.
Yeah. Brogdon then really failed. Didn't last, 5 months. And it was hostile. But there wasn't a unifier. Right. Pam kind of treaded water, Pam Pollard. But she really didn't do a lot of the reaching out, except trying to repair some of Brogdon's stuff. But it was very hard for her to raise any money for the party. In fact, she went without a salary much of her term and a half. And then we went to David McLean, who's really struggling. A lot of financial questions there. And that was difficult. But then we went to Bennett, who's a disaster, who I strongly endorse so much that I said, I'll run as your running mate, And great regret. I'm out of the picture now. I am not recruiting people because I'm not a good picker. I just ain't. And so Now it was the state committee that selected A.J. Ferrati, who had been our legal counsel for much of the last more than 10 years. Ferrati and I have bumped heads. We bashed heads, but at least he's somewhat of a grown-up here. Now, Sean Roberts is running, former state representative, very conservative, head of the Platform Caucus. He's running. And there's a lot of people AJ's got a lot of baggage. And he's never been supported by the state convention. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
That's at state, and that's in a couple weeks. But anyway, if you can't afford the $40 they want, because they want you to pay for a meal that they selected for you, they said, fine, pay $30, bring a sack lunch, whatever. And $30, yeah, it's still the most I've ever seen, but.
So, but to get to the state, you have to attend the county. And to attend the county.
The county has flexibility. There will be a motion made. Who should we send to be our delegation of state? We've often said those who were sent by their precincts to be part of this county delegation, which would mean even if you didn't show up.
Okay.
Sometimes they do that.
And to attend the county, or as a voting member of at the county, what are the qualifications?
You have to have been selected by your precinct at the precinct meetings.
And so you have to have attended your precinct to be able to vote at the county. Yeah. So just so you know, if don't go show up at the county convention and think you can
not vote, but they've always had a visitor center.
Right. Oh yeah, no. And it'd be worth your while. If you've never been to one, you should go. Mm-hmm. Just go just to see and get your juices flowing and get behind everything and maybe prepare you to get involved next time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think you got anything else?
I went to see Jesus Revolution.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I tell you what, Eddie, it was better than what you led me to believe.
Oh, excuse me.
I hardly had a dry eye through most of it. It was that impacting. I've seen bad pictures being promoted in the name of Christianity. And they're just awful. I mean, it's not that the story was bad. It was the production. This was absolutely the best I've seen in a Christian production or telling a Christian story. Kelsey Grammer played the lead of Cheers fame and, all those different things he's done. Frasier.
He was Frasier.
Yeah, Frasier. Well, he at first was on Cheers.
Right.
Yeah. And anyway, just fantastic. Plays Chuck Smith. To me, the real hero in the movie was his daughter. Because his daughter was the catalyst that made it all start. And she played a fantastic role. So, yeah, it was good. It was, I just heard this morning on Newsmax, Tom Borelli interviewed Greg Laurie, who really this story follows Greg Laurie's life.
Yeah, I thought he was the central character of the film.
And Greg was, I believe they list him as executive producer of it. And he said, I'll be honest with you, we compressed that narrative just in order to make it work on the screen. He said, the Jesus Revolution also, it started out as a book. In that book in narrative form, it goes into great, much more detail about it. So if you liked the movie, I think you'll really like the book. I haven't read it. But it's really good. And it just brings me back. Look, I bowed my knee in the 70s to accept Jesus. I believe you did too. And the flavor of what that era was. We haven't seen that kind of revival in decades.
No, you're right.
And it's really good. And I pray it's happening.
I think there was fertile ground. It was such fertile ground. The hippie movement, I've always said that the initial hippie movement, I believe, was a pure and an innocent movement, what they were seeking. It got corrupted and turned into something horrible that it did not initially intend. But initially the whole peace and love ideal of the hippie movement made it ripe for Jesus. In other words, what they were looking for, they found in Jesus. Mm-hmm. So the ones who were really looking for that and wanted that, because they saw the horror and the things. For example, Greg's wife, the young lady that became his wife. Mm-hmm. You'll see. I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but anyway, you'll see this young lady. There's an event in the movie that happens that freaks her out. Mm-hmm. She's one of the hippies, and she's actually farther gone than Greg is. Mm-hmm. And something happens, and it just freaks her out, and it actually causes her to come to Jesus.
Yes,
and so it's that so many of the people that were in the hippie movement, mm-hmm. the peace, love, and the drugs, and expanding your mind, and Timothy Leary, they mm-hmm. went to see Timothy Leary, and oh wow, man.
Yeah.
And then, but all of a sudden, when they experience the negative aspect of it, the reality of the negative part of that hit mm-hmm. them, and then all of a sudden they realize this isn't what I signed up for. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, and Jesus did offer the reality of what they were looking for.
Yeah,
that's what they.
Well, yeah, because your life, Eddie, and what little you've told me about it seems to be a perfect picture. In the 60s, you were a civil rights protester, right? And it was a very legitimate thing to protest. Now, given your family and your dad's occupation, I don't think you were an anti-war protester. To the extent a lot of these kids were.
No, I was actually the opposite.
Yeah, but at the same time, you got a college scholarship and a deferment because of that, right?
No.
Really?
Yeah, really, no.
Okay, but that was a common narrative, right, for a lot of kids?
Yeah, a lot of kids.
Okay, so you're not quite the narrative there, but you had a lot of kids that couldn't afford college. They didn't come from a family, and that was not the days with all these big Pell Grants. I mean, if you went to college, it's because your family had money back then.
I have to tell you, that's what's so funny. Do you know how much my college tuition was my freshman year?
Oh, well, I'm sure it's a minute fraction of what it would be today.
$50 a semester.
Oh, God. Yeah, but
$50. So,
but I'm just saying, where I grew up in a rural, the county seat, rural Minnesota, in that the mindset, I mean, none of us kids ever expected we'd go to college.
Let me just say, no. Okay, I came there as this. I was pretty straight when I got there. Mm-hmm. I came from a military family, and I didn't like rock music. I didn't like hippies. Because my dad was Army, and
right.
But I did. The racial thing was pretty strong. But so what happened? These hippies befriended me. Mm-hmm. Guy just shows up one day, long-haired hippie flower guy. I mean the classic hippie, looked like the zigzag man. He just shows up, and next thing I know, I'm fully into this thing.
Yeah,
and so that became my new peer group. I hung out with them and with all of that, then I did go into the anti-war movement and peace and love and everything like that.
Okay, so the anti-war thing wasn't so much where you're coming from as much as the civil rights. Right. But I knew a lot of people from white rural Minnesota, okay? And they were very animated anti-war.
Yeah, probably because they didn't want to go to there.
Because keep in mind, here... this is the days of the draft. Mm-hmm. This was modern day slavery, okay? Because they could take you at 18. You weren't even an adult until you were 21 back in those days. We had to change the Constitution since then to make an 18-year-old, fully, autonomous. So anyway, it was seen as a kind of slavery, and then they could put you in this war on the other side of the world that they didn't really explain why your national security depended on it. And so you had all these things that people were against. But eventually somebody had to say, what am I for? And that's where the Jesus message, just hit fertile ground.
It's funny. I'm gonna take us a step back or a side step. It's funny because if you think about it, the Democrats got us into Vietnam.
Yeah.
And the Democrats are back at it again.
Yeah.
With Ukraine. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting that it's almost like things are coming back around. Yeah. And, they want to make the Republicans the warmongers and the this and that. Yeah. But the Republicans are not the ones who want to get us and send our young people off to fight these wars, right? It's the Democrats.
Except for GW.
It's
that lasted his whole presidency and all of
Obama's. But see, there's a difference. See, what we did there, it was a little different. That we knew what we were getting. We were getting into it was a different type of war.
The initial thing I didn't disagree with.
Well, no, but I mean, also we were fighting a different enemy. What the Democrats are doing today is almost suicidal. In other words, we're going against Russia.
Yeah.
We're not going against Iran. Not Iran. I mean Iraq. Okay, we're not going against Iraq or Kuwait or whoever. It's a whole different animal that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say. And we even realize now the mistake we made in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't have been there. I mean, or as long as we were.
Definitely shouldn't have stayed. I mean, you go in. It wasn't the Taliban that we were after. We were after Al Qaeda.
Right.
To some degree, you got to neutralize the Taliban.
It expanded.
And then it turned into girls going to school and women getting to vote.
Right.
All these, nation building. Mm-hmm. But so getting back to my point in this, I think the beauty of this that makes me feel
the movie. Getting back to the movie and the hippies.
Yeah, the Jesus Revolution. I've called all my kids, told them, you got to go to this. You know what part of it is? I want my kids to understand the world I was facing in the 70s and the role Jesus played in my life. And I think it explains, or has the opportunity to explain to these younger generations just how you and I grew up.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work though. I don't think, you see, it just doesn't work that way. I'm like you. I've tried to get my kids to understand and see and feel what their mother and I went through. Because, both of my wife was a hippie, and, when I met her, it was a halter top and bell bottoms, flowers in your hair, the whole, the whole nine. You had the music, in fact, my son, when he was young, Dad, would you please turn the music down? But it's something you have to have lived. And I think it's something supernatural that has to occur, and it can't be relived. It's a perfect example. Woodstock 2. There was one Woodstock.
Yeah.
They tried to recreate it with Woodstock 2, and it turned into a literal disaster.
Yeah, they're all posers for one.
Yeah, a total disaster. Women being raped, they murdered a guy. I mean, the whole thing. In fact, no one even remembers it. They don't want anybody to remember because it was so awful. So we can't do it now. It will happen again, but it'll happen in a way and in a form that we won't recognize and we won't understand.
Yeah, here's where I'm going. The unrest we saw in the summer of 2020. To a lot of people younger than you and me, that's unprecedented. They'd never seen this nation in such protest and riot and countercultures and, division. And remember, the term back then was generation gap. And it was very much over 25 and under 25, right? And this 2020 wasn't age-based. It was color. It was politics, right? But to me, it gives my kids a chance to see that, you know what, things always go in cycles. Have we ever been this divided as a nation? Yeah. That movie shows some of the cultural divide that our nation was in. And I've not seen that done well.
No, I agree. No, I want my kids to see it. I want everybody to see it. I want everybody. I want you to go see it. If you haven't seen it, I want you to go see it. What I'm saying is I don't expect this movie to generate a new revival because they want to live what we lived. Because we can't do that. It would be us, like for example, one of my great biblical heroes is Francis of Assisi. I would love to experience with Francis of Assisi and live like Francis of Assisi. I can't do that because it was a different time. Everything was different. And as much as I would like to, and for my son to try to live the hippie life and be, his kids or my kids' kids, it just can't happen. So it has to be, but it will happen. It will. Everything comes around in different ways, but I think it's going to hit us in a way we can't expect.
Well, when people in wide scale revolt against the establishment, eventually they got to turn around and look inward, look at each other and say, but what are we for?
Right.
And this was an amazing example of people finding out what they're for and finding out Jesus.
I think what is going to happen is one of my peeves. I'll just say this. I think we're at the place that the kids were back then, rebelling against the church.
The structure of the church.
The structure of the church. And I know Tulsa's known as a church town, but so many of the churches, including the one that I go to and the ones that I know, they think they've got it going on. Their youth groups are happening. At least they think they're happening. But they're not happening as much as they'd like to think they're happening. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times pastors and leaders, what pastors and leaders have done, which I believe happened before, they've substituted the movement of the Spirit with programs. We have these programs. Look what we're doing. We're doing. We're doing. Now what God's doing. Sounds weird, doing. And what's got to happen again, as you saw, for example, in the Jesus Revolution, Chuck Smith almost got drug kicking and screaming, remember, into the whole Jesus movement.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of his members left because they didn't like the way it was moving.
Didn't like their culture, didn't like their clothes.
Didn't like the way it was going.
Right.
So it wasn't the way they did things.
It wasn't that they were ungodly in the way they treated people in the church.
Right.
They just represented a different set of values, different set of cultural styles.
Right.
They were barefoot.
Yeah.
I love how Chuck Smith said, they don't want them in there because they just got new carpet and they're barefoot and dirty feet. So Chuck washed every hippie's feet as he comes in, I just thought it was beautiful. He turned it into a sacrament. I think we have this opportunity to really ask ourselves questions based on this. What you said about the establishment church prior to Constantine, prior to the Romanization of it and everything, it was much more informal. It was wherever two or three are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of it. That's church. That's the essence of church. I've just got a little bit to say here. I'll be quick. Thursday, I spent the whole day in Tulsa County District Court on behalf of an attorney who's helping a blogger friend of mine, and now this attorney is facing some major criminal charges. This young attorney is from Kansas City. His whole family, relatives, and his brother are down here. His brother's a rabbinical student at Gonzaga. And I'm in a room. I'm one of two Gentiles in a whole section of Reformed Jews. And at one point, they have to move us into a different courtroom because they're having problems with the sound system where we're at. And I'm talking to the rabbinical student. We're just getting along great. And we go into the other room. And I said, because he knows I'm Pentecostal, former pastor. And I said, would you agree in prayer with me? And I prayed for, God's anointing to fill this room. I prayed for, truth and justice to be established here. And I said, because we call upon you, Lord. Amen. And he said, amen. And a bunch of these Jewish people heard us, and they're all saying amen. They didn't even believe in Jesus, at least not yet. But you
didn't say in Jesus.
I didn't say
okay,
Jesus.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, okay.
I just called, God
right,
our Father.
Lord, right.
God our Father. And, but they're still seeking God, just like Cornelius was seeking a God he didn't know. And that's still, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, Jesus said, that's church. Mm-hmm. But then you've got seekers outside of that still haven't found. And I'm a big believer in what's growing now, the house churches. And for about 10 years, Debbie and I went to one. It's just way out in Coweta. But sometimes Sunday school, to me, reflects more the true essence of church than in the sanctuary. We've gotten, in many ways, we forget what is the essence of being a church. And it can happen anywhere. And, and it's not business. When you hear a preacher say, we've got to protect the ministry, they often mean we've got to protect our corporation. Because the Great Commission doesn't need your protection.
No, ministry doesn't need protection.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so anyway, other than that, the only other thing on my week was a great basketball tournament. We watched David slide Goliath last night. Truly Goliath.
And our own David didn't quite fare as well.
No, that was a bad matchup. They had to play Duke first round, and Duke is just a good, solid team.
Yeah,
that didn't match up well with ORU. And for ORU, sometimes you have a bad night shooting, and they had their worst night of the year shooting.
It happens. Yeah.
But anyway, so those are all good things. I think that's all on my list.
All right.
Go see Donald Trump, 5:30 today, Saturday.
All right, everyone. That's it for another week of Fresh Schwarze Kaffee or Negro.
And in honor of
Cafe.
Donald Trump's presence.
All I can say is it's totally fake news. It's just fake. It's fake. It's made up stuff.
There we go.
Not this.
Welcome
not this.
to Tulsa, Donald
The other
Trump.
stuff. The other stuff. All right, everybody. Thank you again for being with us. And we hope, Lord willing, to see you next week.